Welcome back to another episode of Local Search Tuesdays. I'm actually on an airplane right now, if you're watching this Tuesday morning, heading to a conference in Bali. So for this week's video, I'm sharing a presentation I did for a healthcare conference last month. Obviously, I'm recording this ahead of time since I'm stuck on a brutally long flight to Bali. But don't let that make you think this week's video isn't awesome. I spoke at HCIC a few weeks ago, which is a big healthcare conference. Healthcare can get complex really quickly since most healthcare providers have tons of locations. So check out the tips in this presentation if you want to learn more about how to show up better in local searches. It's about half an hour long, so get comfy, grab a drink or a snack, and dig in. This is how to use SEO to win the local visibility war. You guys know who I am because you're watching me here on my weekly video series. But if it's the first time you've seen this, hey, I'm Greg. I'm the Vice President of Search at SearchLab. You're watching the video series, but you should come back every week to our blog and check it out. I'm also lucky enough to get to speak at conferences all over the world. And sometimes, you see some presenters who may have some great info to share, but aren't really that engaging to watch. Typically, they're going to stand locked behind the podium the entire time with their back to the crowd because they're reading their slides. And even worse, typically the background of the slide is just plain white and it's packed with bullet points all in black Arial font. And they just read bullet points. And not only is that not fun to watch, it's a scientifically proven fact that bullet points kill kittens. And today we're going to keep all the kitties safe. And you saw the reference there at the beginning to the Avengers. I am a ridiculous movie nut. So every time there's a presentation, I always have to share my love of movies with my love of talking about digital marketing. So there's always a theme, and today's theme is superhero movies. We've got 94 references to superhero movies, with at least one superhero movie for every year in the last 50 years. There is attribution over to the side. If it's something you've not seen before, you'll have a cool list of new movies to go watch later. Also, pay attention once we get past the little jokey intro. I have all of the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies in timeline order for the backgrounds, so it's a lot of fun. So why the long face? Are you spending too much time looking up at other healthcare organizations that rank higher than you? You don't have to have a big brain to succeed in SEO, even though it might seem like it's a bunch of magic or voodoo. It's really not. I'm going to share a lot of hot tips with you today so you'll be able to crush your competitors and kick ass in local search results. In today's world, though, patients really always end up at a facility because they found that facility in search results. If you're not showing up in those local search results, then you're going to lose out to competitors who do show up better. Now, if we boil Google down to the most simple concept, it's really just an advanced pattern detection program. And doing SEO just gives you a better pattern. We know that you need local SEO because searches for anything related to healthcare are going to be automatically localized. I was in Orlando when I was building this presentation. So when I did a search just for hospital, it pulls up local results in the Orlando area. Or if I search just plastic surgeon, again, same thing. I only see results in my immediate area, even though I didn't specify I was looking for those localized results. So that just proves that Google uses its local algorithm to return those search results related to anything in healthcare, which again proves that healthcare organizations need local SEO. It's important to understand that that local algorithm works differently than Google's traditional algorithm, and it considers a few additional signals. Again, if we boil things down to simple concepts and you want to understand how the local algorithm works, I like to use pizza delivery as the example. If you're sitting in your office and you type 2 words into Google, pizza delivery, you get a list of all the pizza spots right there by your office. But then you could go home and try the same search at home with the same 2 words and get completely different search results, even though you didn't specify that you wanted different results, because Google knows where you are when you're doing the search, and it knows that that's a search that needs local results. So that explains how local SEO works. And a little bit of simple math explains why you need local SEO. So let's say there are 20 competitors in your market trying to show up for the terms that matter to you. There are only 13 spots on page 1 of Google because you've got 3 in the map pack and the 10 organic, but they usually are going to have some of those aggregate third-party type sites. If we take those out, there's typically 7 or 8 spots that
really a business could show up in, that means there's 12 or 13 people that don't show on page 1, and there's only 10 spots on page 2. So that's 2 to 3 people all the way back on page 3 where no one's ever going to see them. And for a lot of different healthcare organizations and facilities, there are a lot more than 20 competitors in the market fighting for those terms. And that's why you have to do local SEO. It's also important to understand where the local algorithm displays search results. Now, the most obvious is the map pack. Whenever you do a search, you see the map. Now, the map used to be on the top, but it's been moved over to the side. But on mobile, the map still shows above the 3. But you're going to have 3 results with the map. Now, you can click more places, and that takes you to what's called the local finder page, which goes beyond just the top 3 and shows you everything in the local area that matches the intent of that search query. And then you could also search directly inside of Google Maps. Now, it looks very similar, but Google Maps is going to be a little more dialed in on your actual location, since there's probably more intent to specifically drive to that location. But beyond the map pack, below the map pack results, it's not regular SEO results or regular Google results. These results are also localized to the particular area. Now, most healthcare organizations want to show up in that map pack because it's at the top and it's more visual, it takes up more space. So let's talk about that first. The second most influential factor that helps you show up in that map pack is that you have a physical address in the city that's being searched. And then the most important factor is that you're close to the person that's doing the search. The distance from the person doing the search to the search results has a lot of influence there, but you can't influence those things. You can't optimize them. You can't change them. So let's talk about the things that you do have the ability to influence. It's really important to pay attention to the annual local search ranking factor study, where they take the top about 40 people worldwide in local search, and they send a pretty in-depth, intensive survey out. If you were to take 5 really awesome SEOs and have them all optimize the same site, they'd all optimize that site slightly differently, but they'd all be touching the same things. There'd be a lot of overlap there. And that's the thought process behind this study. If you take these top 40 experts across the planet and you aggregate their answers, you get a pretty good handle on which things influence visibility, both in the map pack and in organic. So we get a nice little pie chart display of the factors that influence your visibility in the local map pack. And then you get another pie chart that shows you the factors that influence your visibility in the localized organic results. So let's start with talking about the content on your site and how that content is optimized. A lot of people have basically come to equate adding pages of content to a site to doing SEO, but Google doesn't actually care how much content is on your site. Google cares that you've got quality content on your site. So the amount doesn't matter. Even word count doesn't matter. It's the quality of the answer and the quality of the content. And again, boiling down to simple concepts, if you want to show up as a search result, when somebody types in a particular search phrase in Google, then you need a page of content on your website that's about that particular concept. And that page needs to be the best answer in the local area to the question that that searcher is asking. And if you're truly writing the best answer in the local area, you're probably going to answer several subsequent questions that that searcher would have once they received that initial answer. It's important to realize, too, that healthcare falls into the your money or your life category, which is websites or businesses that are related to anything health related or money related. So because of that, you have to prove a higher level of authority and expertise than a standard local business would have to prove. You want to make sure that your content is actually all about your business and your organization, not the same generic stuff that's on everybody else's sites. And it needs to be actually about the local area as well, because we know people are going to shop around. And if you've got the same generic content as all of your competitors in town, then why would anybody care? Why would anybody call you? There's a really easy way to test that. Take the homepage content on your site and change only 2 things. Change the name of your business every time it appears, and the actual city that you're in every time it appears. Could you then take that content from a location in Florida and put it on a similar type business in Los Angeles? If the content still works, then that means it wasn't really about you or really about your local area. Another important content test is to take it and physically read it out loud, not just think through it in your head, but physically read it out loud. everything on your site should sound conversational, like something that you would say to someone that just walked in the front door or to somebody on the phone. And you tend to have business owner or marketing blinders on, and you know everything about what you do, but you don't necessarily think about it the same way as someone who has never needed your services before and now does and is looking at for the first time. So read it out loud. You catch those awkward turns of phrase that don't sound conversational when you do that. Now, once you've written this awesome content, that's the best answer in the local area that answers all the subsequent questions, then you've got to optimize it so that it's super easy for Google to understand what it's about. So I'm going to walk you through the page elements that need to be optimized on each page. Every time I mention keyword, it's the same keyword throughout the page. And every time I mention city, it's the same city throughout the page. You don't want to mix those up. So the first most important, most weighted element is the title tag. That's the text that appears in the little tab above where you type in your URL. And it's really, really important to Google that you've got the keyword and the location phrase in there. Don't put your business name there. You're the only business name that. So you're always going to rank number one for that. Concentrate more on optimizing for the things that you need to show up for. The second most important element on the page is your H1 heading. That's the big thick headline at the beginning of the content on your page. You should only have one H1 on the page. It should be a bit more conversational. It should have the same keyword and city. Obviously, it needs to be in your page content. But if you've written the best answer in the local area that answers all the subsequent questions, that's all about your business and all about the local area, then you're not going to have to optimize anything here. All the platforms nowadays allow you to set custom URLs for the interior pages of your site. Make sure you have the same keyword and city phrase in your URL. And also make sure if you're putting in separators between those words in the URL so that you can't use spaces, don't use underscores, use dashes. It's much more search engine friendly. Alt text on images is another important one. Google used to not be able to tell what was in images, but now machine learning allows it to tell what's in an image. But alt text is still part of that search algorithm, and it's a place that you can really outpace competitors because a lot of competitors won't do anything with it. So put alt text that is keyword rich and location rich on all the images that are embedded on the page. And the meta description is also important. Now, the meta description doesn't have any play in the ranking algorithm, but since it populates those couple of gray sentences underneath your blue link when you show up as a search result, you want to treat it kind of like an ad and write something compelling there. You also have to have a blog, and you need to post on a regular basis. And the reason you need a blog is because the content that goes on your site is different than the content that goes on your blog. Blog content is more mid to upper funnel content. So the website content is bottom of funnel content meant to drive conversions. You want people to call you and come to see you. The blog content, you don't expect to get as many leads out of it because it's more informational. It's more about discovery. It's kind of like the billboard effect. And honestly, if you put content up there that's not specifically really detailed about what you do and is more informational, you do get that billboard effect where you're not expecting that everyone that sees the content is going to call you, but it's helpful, useful, interesting information that will get exposure before people are really looking for the solution and services that you provide, especially if you share information about the local area. So make your blog a local destination and talk about informational things in the local area to build more local relevancy and get more exposure. If you're not sure how to do this, I've got an awesome video here that you can watch that walks you through 10 different concepts that you can use to write localized content. Now, let's talk about links pointed to your site from other websites. They're really heavily weighted in Google's algorithm. And because we're targeting that local algorithm, we want to make sure that they are links from local businesses and local websites. The good news is it's really easy to get those links if you're involved in the local community, which most healthcare organizations are. So a couple of ideas and tactics and strategies you can use. Local sponsorships are great. Now, Google isn't okay with you buying links. It can actually get you in trouble, but you can get a sponsorship that results in a link, and that totally works. Local meetups are awesome as well. So look for local groups that have regular monthly meetings and they're looking for sponsors, and you throw in $50-$60 a month to buy their snacks and their drinks. Boom, you get some killer local links out of it. Find any way you can to get local bloggers to write about you. It's a super killer way and easy way to get links. Talk to your staff about what they do in their free time. What are they passionate about? What are their hobbies? Especially if they're in the leadership group of any local club or organization, it's going to be really easy to get a link. Find some of those neighborhood watch sites that have WordPress sites, because a lot of neighborhood watch sites, crime watch sites, will have a WordPress site. They'll be hungry for content. So if you can give them anything newsworthy to write about or any sort of special or discount, You're going to get some awesome links that are relevant down to a neighborhood level. And you can use Google to do some of the work for you as well. So just throw your city name in with some of the concepts you want to go after, and boom, you'll get a list of all of the opportunities in your local area that you can go after. And we need to talk a little bit about reviews as well. They're clearly important because people are going to do research and read reviews, but they're also really weighted in Google's local algorithm. So it's important to be proactive with your reputation management process and make it easy for everybody to leave a review, and then ask people to leave a review, because it's not really human nature to leave a review when you've had a good experience. Watch this video. It really walks you through the details of this process, but pulling a really important bit out, you want to make it easy by setting up a page on your site with a simple thank you message that says, thanks for, doing business with us. Let us know what your experience was like. And then you list the links to all of your different review sites. That way it's very easy for everyone at the organization to know where to send people to leave reviews. It makes it very easy for people to know what to do without having to go figure out where to go on Google or anywhere else or Health Grades to go leave those reviews. An important note on Google reviews: if a customer or a patient leaves a review that includes important keywords, one or two reviews won't do anything, but multiple reviews over time will start to help you show up a little bit better for searches related to those keywords. But you can't tell people what to write because it's against Google's rules. It's actually against FTC law. But you can do a little Jedi mind trick and list a few questions on that reviews generation page, and it will point people in the right direction subliminally. So ask some 2 or 3 questions that are very pointed, and it will help get some people to think about the right things when they're writing. Make sure that you respond to every single review that happens, and it's really important to stay HIPAA compliant with your review responses. So watch this video. It walks you through that. Keep in mind, when you're responding to bad reviews, your response is not for the person that left the bad review. It's for every potential patient or family member of a patient in the future who's reading your reviews to try to decide where they want to go. So let's finish up with Google Business Profiles. Your Google Business Profile is your new homepage. It's the first impression you're going to make with anyone looking for you by name. And it's also what allows you to show up in the map pack or in Google Map results. You want to use your actual business name. Don't add additional keywords that can get you in trouble. You want to choose all of the right categories. There's a really cool interactive list over at Plepper Tools. So you can enter a single category and it will show you all of the categories that are most often selected along with that category. You can also use a really cool Chrome plugin called GMB Spy that allows you to check out all of the categories that your competitors have listed. Make sure you upload a lot of high quality photos. Make sure you've got a phone number with a local area code. Now, that doesn't mean you can't do call tracking. You can, but get a local area code tracking number, put that in as your primary number, and list your actual local number as an alternate so the algorithm still sees consistency. You want to make sure you add UTM tracking because attribution is broken in Google Analytics. And a lot of times, if no referral information is passed over, like on a lot of mobile search results, then no referral information is passed, and that gets classified as direct traffic in Google Analytics. So if you add a little string to the end of your website link, it forces it to be attributed correctly in Google Analytics, so you have better data about what's going on with your marketing. You want to make sure you're using Google Posts because they're basically free ads that appear in your Google Business Profile. I did a really awesome 15-minute long video for an SEO tool company called Moz for their Whiteboard Friday video series. So go watch this video here. It's 15 minutes of densely packed information. But the most important element here is don't pay as much attention to the content of the entire post. Pay attention to what shows up in the post thumbnail because it's going to crop in and only show a portion of the image and a couple of lines of text. But image cropping isn't really intuitive and it's kind of inconsistent. So for better control over what's visible in those thumbnails, we've created a Photoshop guide that you can download at the link right here. When you download this guide, it's going to look like this. Anything that's inside that white grid is going to appear in your thumbnail and the rest of the image will appear once they click the thumbnail to see the full post. You should also be paying attention to the Google Business Profile questions and answers section. This section allows anyone to ask you a question and any random person can answer that question for you. And that should terrify you. The problem is that customers / patients / friends or family of patients or potential patients think that it's chat or instant messaging, but it's actually a community discussion widget. Now, questions can receive multiple answers, but the answer that has the most thumbs up or the most upvotes is the one that's displayed as the primary answer. So it's really important to stay on top of all of the answers to your various questions and keep your own business owner answers upvoted to display as primary. You can even load in your own questions and seed those frequently asked questions into your Google Business Profile. It's much more important to have them here than to have an FAQ page on your site, because nowadays it's pretty unlikely that someone's going to sit there and browse through the 50 or 60 questions on your FAQ page to see if their question might be there and might have an answer. The really cool thing about the Q&A section on your Google Business Profile is that Google will autocomplete a question as it's being typed if a similar question has been asked in the past. And if that similar question has been asked and answered, it will automatically supply that answer as they're typing their question in, which is a much better first impression experience. So I always like to share a few fun examples of questions and answers out in the wild. This is the example I love to show, because even though the phone number is displayed very close to the button that lets you ask a question, clearly the phone number is right there, but we see questions all the time that say, hey, what's your phone number? Or they could click through directly to your site and get the phone number there, but they don't, because they think it's chat. Or this one, hey, your website sucks, and somebody said, yeah, I'm not a fan of it either. This is actually a question you could get removed. There are 3 dots that appear to the right. You could click the 3 dots and report the question and remove it, because this isn't a question. This was for an event that I was doing at Google headquarters in Austin, Texas. So I tried to pull up a few local examples, and I found a fun one where the question was, does this car dealership have a body shop? And the answer was, don't go here. Look at the reviews. I had a horrible experience. They lie to you and everyone else. But notice there are 6 more answers. And when the business owner answers, it says owner in parentheses there. It's a much better answer. Well, this was my example of why you needed to pay attention to keeping your answers upvoted. But it turned out this guy was in the room, and he said, hey, this is my dealership. And I said, oh, I'm sorry, not trying to shame you. And he said, no shame, but how do we fix it? We just grabbed 3 people that were still sitting right there in the front row, had them all go to this Google Business Profile and click thumbs up on the owner answer. And immediately that gave it more upvotes than the one that was previously displayed as primary. And boom, it jumped up to the primary answer to the question. This was for a conference I did in Boston, where it was an old New England hotel, and the halls were very kind of wonky and twisted, not making a lot of sense. And the room numbers were all weird. So somebody asked how the room numbers were ordered, and this guy says alphabetically. And we kind of laugh at that, but it's not a great first impression experience if someone's trying to figure that out. And this was my favorite example of all time. The answer has since been changed, but it's for the London Eye, the big Ferris wheel on the Thames River. And the question was, do you have to wear a helmet? And the answer was, you don't have to. You can if you wish. I believe Viking helmets are a popular choice, which is funny, but for a pretty major tourist destination, probably not the best thing. So you want to load your own questions, answer your questions, monitor everything, and keep your answers upvoted. So it's an awesome pre-site FAQ experience just like this. Remember, when you're working on all of these things, that SEO is a marathon, not a sprint. I can't talk today, sorry. You don't get immediate results. The things that you're doing now affect your visibility several months down the road. So it's important to have that expectation and understand that you are building towards a better future. If you focus on local SEO instead of traditional SEO and quality content, you will get results. A couple of examples that I wanted to share. We have a multi-location healthcare organization that was hit by Google's Your Money or Your Life update in around March of 2019. Now, this was before they were working with us. They dropped from an average of about 20,000 sessions a month down to 4,500 pretty much overnight. They came to us and we started working with them in January of 2020, so almost a year after they were hit by this update. And we restructured their site, actually helped get them a new site built, restructured all that content, and then intensely concentrated on creating expert level content. And they shot way up. They're above 45,000 visits a month, so more than double what they were before they were hit with the update. And then we have another healthcare client who started with us a year into the COVID lockdowns when everyone was still struggling for traffic, mid 2021. And you could see there things really took off. He was averaging 34,000 sessions a month organically before working with SearchLab, and he's been over 100,000, and that's just a year later. So if you use all the tactics that I shared with you today and layer on a customized strategy for your particular organization and locations, you will get awesome results too. Thank you so much for sitting through that absolute fire hose of local SEO information today. Now, hopefully you won't be down when you're thinking about local search results and how things work. I hope these hot tips help you to go from being the underdog to being super happy about your visibility in local search results. So that was how to win the local visibility war with SEO. There's my Twitter handle. As long as Twitter's still alive, you can follow me on Twitter for some great SEO tips. And there's my email address. Email me if you ever have any questions, or if you're watching this video now and you'd like a copy of the slides, I'll pop it over to you if you just ask. And there's a list of all the movies at the end, so you have a really cool list of superhero movies to watch. Thanks so much for watching today.
Thanks for sticking around to watch the whole thing. That's definitely all the time we've got left for this week's video, so you know what that means. Put your hand on the screen right here. We totally just high-fived because you learned something awesome. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next week for another episode of Local Search Tuesdays.